Yeah.
Hello.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
What a start to the day. I mean, really. Instagram, I was telling everybody, I think Instagram did not want us to talk together today.
Yeah.
I just got kicked out of your live feed, but it's working now. So great.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Do we have the same audience?
Yes, I see that some moved. Hi Gokan. I see that some moved from your live stream to this one. It's okay. We can just get started right away because people have been waiting.
Hello, Tina.
Wow. Oh, hi Tina.
Yes, excellent. That was another experience of an online event. Yeah, we mastered it. So let's get to the topic. So today we are talking about how to incorporate sustainability into a destination experience. And we'll hear from you about the type of requests you receive, how you go about it with your clients, and how you design sustainable experiences. So let's start with the basics. Yes, Tina, very modern technology. Yeah, we just... That can happen to everyone, I think, with all the time, with all the technologies. Sustainability, is it required by the client or suggested by you?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that I believe environmental awareness should be a given. It shouldn't be an idea or a concept or a trend, but we should all be more aware and all have a focus on sustainability in our daily lives and also in our event, in our professional events and our work routines. So until now, I have to say that there haven't been so many of our clients that have actively requested sustainable programs. A little bit more than before, but it's not the common thing. So when I get a request, I still don't get very often specific questions about sustainability. But from my side, I will always try to push for it. So I will give them alternatives. I will suggest what they can do to make their event greener. And I think it's important that we do that from both sides, that companies and event agencies request from their DMCs and their partners abroad if they don't get it offered actively, but also that DMCs and suppliers have sustainability policies and suggest to make adjustments if the client is not asking for it.
Yeah. And do you think that events post-pandemic will be more sustainable or pretty much remain the same as before when it comes to sustainability? And what I mean by that is that now we reduce the travel, we reduced all the brochures that we give out to avoid this contact, minimized all the amenities, the food, increased food packaging to have individual portions. So so from one side it's sustainable, yes, because less travel, less air travel, but then other way there is more packaging and individual packaging. So what do you think, what events will look like post-pandemic?
Well, there are two groups of people here. There are many people who say that all this focus on sustainability is going away. It's not going to be that important in this first post-corona crisis. But I personally believe that the awareness will increase continuously as it has been doing. It's been going on for a while now, and slowly we are having more and more focus on sustainability. And I think that is definitely going to continue after Corona. I mean, why wouldn't it? It's important to think of the environment and our future. And especially the younger generations of event planners are very, very committed to focus on that. It's one of their core beliefs, and many are very passionate about the subject. So it will always be important. And I can see that many companies are starting to design new sustainability policies for their daily operations, but also in terms of their events abroad and traveling and the standard rules and regulations that they want their employees to follow. So for me, definitely it will be continuing to grow.
Okay. We have a comment from Tina. We as member of Glasgow Convention Bureau have to act in the most sustainable way possible. That's part of their policy to join the Convention Bureau, including we must have our own green policy. And Laura from the Italian Special Occasions adds, I think that now is a great opportunity to embrace sustainability.
Exactly. That's a great role model there from the Glasgow Convention Bureau, because we also do that here in Norway. You need to actually promote the policies towards your partners and suppliers, and also as a destination, you need to have a lot of focus on that. And luckily in Norway, we do have that as well.
Yeah. And what type of requests have you been receiving in the past year, pre-corona?
So basically, we do the full scope of my type events. So everything from small meetings to larger conferences to brand activations, lots of product launches, many incentives in all sizes and scales. I mean, from groups of 20 till several thousands. Yeah. We do press groups, we do special events and celebrations. So basically, lots of different types of requests.
And definitely, so there is always opportunity to incorporate sustainability no matter what the size group and what the type of event it is. And then the very few specific requests that you're receiving for sustainability. So what type of request is it? What does it look like? Is it just, for example, someone saying, but actually we want to use local food, or is it saying we want sustainability in all the supply chain? Can you show us certificates, things like that?
Unfortunately, not enough requests for the entire event yet. So that's why we are also trying to pushing that from our side. Mostly, you can see people treading carefully and trying to have something green about their program. So you would get questions like, can we reduce the use of plastic, for example, right? It's not the main thing. Of course, it will help. And of course, it's a nice thing to do. But it's not reducing the plastic that will turn your event into a green event. Many people are still not entirely educated in terms of what sustainability policies actually mean and what goes into that. So reduce plastic is one, and then the food, obviously, because food is like a go-to thing. Everybody's heard now that you can be more sustainable in your approach to what you serve your guests or delegates. And we often hear about the 100 miles radius now, the international notion of the 100 miles radius, meaning that they want food to be produced within that radius around their location, hotel or venue. So that is something that we don't have any issues with in Norway, because everything is very close and locally produced. But we did have a few entirely green requests, very few though, but one was actually a request for a fully zero emission incentive program. And that is quite the challenge. Zero emission is like zero emission. It's a real big challenge, but we love a good challenge. So, and Norway to begin with would be a nice destination to try and do that. So that was quite exciting. And then we had a very big request from a cosmetics company that want to do an entirely sustainable festival.
Wow.
So they are launching a whole new range of products, and they want it to be very close to nature and sustainable, and they want to invite 3,000 of their key sales people and suppliers, and they want the entire festival to be somewhere in nature and entirely sustainable. So that's of course a very nice, beautiful example of a sustainable project. It was supposed to be 2021. But now it will be delayed because it's a 2-year planning process. So hopefully we'll still get to do it a little bit later.
Okay. Yes, I hope so too. And definitely there will be new requirements now for the brief, I guess. So it will be very interesting. We have a question from Laura. Do you think that hybrid events can help environment involving smaller number of people into event and meetings and into the destination?
Yes and no. I'm not sure if we need to consider the two on in the same topic. Travel is going to come back, so that includes all travel. That includes individual travel, business travel, travel for events, etc. So, of course, if you have lower numbers of participants, you have less flights and less carbon emission on those flights. But I don't think that is the key argument to resize your events. I mean, you can have lots of other measures that assure that you reduce, that you can do a carbon offset for your delegates. You can choose airports that have focus on carbon emissions or carbon neutrality. There's lots of things you can do, but I don't believe that the fact that we are doing more hybrid events will influence the sustainability policies in themselves. Like, I don't think a client will say, okay, let's have 50 people on site rather than 100 because we are then less polluting. I don't see that happening very, very soon, at least, for now.
Okay. Kim is asking, what were the main things you implemented to make it zero emission?
Oh, that's a lot of different things, but maybe a little bit later on we will discuss in more detail what the actual parts of a sustainable experience are. So that comes back to that. I can tell you a little bit more about it as we continue.
So we have this question coming, and we'll focus on this. And a question from Tina: how do you explain the fact that flying is not exactly the most sustainable way of traveling, but sometimes the only one to get to the destination?
Yes, well, there's been a lot of focus and discussion around that topic, like people, companies wanting to do more local events, more regional events, but also I believe that's quite short term. And if you look at the airlines, there is a lot of efforts being done towards sustainability. I mean, there's a lot of changes that have taken place in recent years and lots of new technologies that are being developed as we speak to reduce those carbon emissions and make traveling more sustainable. Here in Norway, we even have a pioneering company working on electric flights now. So, I mean, there's a lot of things happening, and that will definitely change towards the future to make our travels more green, because I don't believe people will stop traveling. It can be for a certain period that a company says, okay, now we're doing everything local, but that is not going to continue on the long run, especially if they have international relations or they need to go visit their clients face to face all around the world.
And how, I have a question, how well is developed the public transportation in Norway, that the moment you are at the destination, how do you move around?
It's incredibly well developed, but also in terms of offered transportation or private transportation, we can go fully electric, for example. So we can offer solutions that are really environmentally friendly. If you use public transportation, you have electric buses, you have sustainable options like trains that can take you places, and generally inside especially the smaller destinations, the distances are short. So in terms of accessibility, it's quite easy to reduce your transportation.
Okay, so I just want to add the latest comment from Tina. That's our biggest challenge, to actually get corporates which are looking for sustainable events to come to Scotland, because we just talked about the flights. And so now we talk about the experiences, because this episode today is focusing on how to make sustainability an experience, not just reducing plastic, but actually make people excited about sustainability. And I've been to events where sustainability was discussed and implemented and made an experience through storytelling and through symbols. And I still remember these vivid memories from what it is like to attend a sustainable event and learn about sustainability. So now I have a question to you, Heidi. Do you think that sustainability can be an experience, or it is just a necessity, which you already said in the very, very beginning? It's not a trend, it's a necessity. And what do we need to make it an experience?
Yeah, so basically a necessity, but also it should be part of our lifestyles.
Yeah.
So as a person, we as individuals make more and more educated choices now in terms of sustainability, and more we will also demand that from the companies we work with or work for, that they make the right choices. Because, you know, especially also again, younger generations now who are so passionate about this, they don't want to be associated with a company that has no sustainability policy, or they don't want to be working in an office that doesn't recycle, or, you know, small things can really affect their mindset. And I believe that's a great positive change. Everybody should be focusing on it more. But there's still a misconception that if you want to have a sustainable green event, it's boring. No, it's not. Like, why would it be boring? It's not at all boring. And we don't mean that you have to go cycling around with a sunflower in your mouth the whole time. If you want to have a cruise on a yacht or a helicopter flight, we will not stop you, of course. But it's about finding the balance. You need the balance, and you need to make very well-educated choices, and that's where we come in to help. Like, this is about every step of the way, which we can discuss a little bit more further. But to give you an example, in incentives, we would create experiences, let's say around food, around the journey of your food. So we would literally take the guests to the farm. You know, you can collect your vegetables, you can do a cooking class with the farmer and a local chef. You go for dinner at that restaurant later. You see how short the distance is between where your food is actually produced to how it ends up on your table. So we have all these concepts that are quite popular now around the world already, from sea to plate, from farm to plate. You know, here in Norway, we are very blessed with the fact that we have, you know, fish straight out of the sea, literally a few meters from where you are. We have agriculture everywhere, so everything is locally produced and locally sourced. That's an example. For conferences, it could be a creative workshop, recycling materials that have been used during the conference, use it as a team building activity, you know. But it can also be CSR activities. Go and do a beach cleanup, join a local green startup, have an innovation workshop with them, visit, we have lots of green companies, visit a biogas plant, increase awareness of the delegates as well, and what you can do and how it can not only inspire them on a personal level, but also inspire the company in terms of what they are doing in their home countries. You can do urban farming together, for example. Visit an urban farming community and have your delegates, you know, plant vegetables and see how that goes, and then have a gin tasting with the herbs that are on the roof of that building, for example. You know, there's lots of things you can include that make it fun and also educational at the same time.
Yes, lots of good examples, and I personally experienced a couple of them. I've been to venues where they have urban farming, and you can organize events there surrounded by the green and all implemented in the menu. There are so many creative things that you can do and tell about it, actually, that participants also feel part of it. I just want to go back a little bit and share the comments. Sustainability is not just the planet, it's the people too. Lena is saying sustainability should become a norm, not a trend. Naomi is adding, eco events are so cool. It means that event professionals have to be creative. Yes, that's very true. And Kim adds that definitely, and we cannot wait for the next generation. We need mindset changes now. A comment from Tina, include local communities. It's also a great way to incorporate into the events. That's very true. And Naomi adds, as a student, I only attend events that have implemented sustainable practices. At the end of the day, it's younger generation who will have to cope with climate change in the future.
Exactly right. Yeah, very valuable comment.
Yes, you're very inspiring, and it's great that all of you think this way, because we are responsible for organizing events. We are we have the power to change mindsets and of the future generations who don't necessarily know how things have been done in the past. And when they attend an event and see how cool sustainability is, they will continue doing it, and they will accept it as the normal. So definitely a lot to be done there. So what aspects of the destination experience can be sustainable? So we talked about food, venue, transportation. What else?
There's a lot more to do, of course. And let me maybe take our prime example of the destination of Stavanger here in Norway again, where we did the virtual venue showcase that already focused a little bit on sustainability. And this is also in terms of, you know, going towards zero emission, etc. You have to examine every step of the way. So basically you build your program and you ask yourself the question, can I change anything about this step that makes it more sustainable? So if we take Stavanger as an example, I showed you in the venue showcase where the airport was. First of all, choosing that destination in itself, it being generally a sustainable destination, is your first choice. So you arrive there. The fact that you're landing in a smaller airport and that has a very high focus on sustainability helps as well, because it's one of the pioneers in the world working towards carbon neutrality, which is very impressive. So they do all kinds of measures at the airport, from you know, where they source their products to they even have beehives on site at the airport, and they produce their own honey, and with those beehives they measure the pollution. They manage noise pollution as well. They have a greenhouse inside the terminal where they grow tomatoes, where you have local restaurants using those ingredients. I mean, there's lots and lots of exciting stuff that they're doing at the airport itself, and that has a huge impact, because you can imagine, as most larger airports around the world, there's a lot of shipments, a lot of lots of transportation and logistics involved in running an airport. But being consciously aware of making all those small changes makes a huge difference. And then you arrive at that airport and everything is accessible. So basically within 5, 10, 15 minutes, you are wherever you want to be in that destination. That means you don't need long journeys with the transportation or vehicles that might be polluting. But in the same time, many destinations, and Stavanger is also an example of that, are already offering sustainable transportation options, whether public or privately. So electric buses are a big thing right now, but also fully electric boats. You can do entire fjord experiences on a green boat, a zero emission boat that just loads on a docking station, just like your phone. So there's lots of cool stuff from the beginning in terms of transportation and in terms of accessibility that make it easier. Then you pick your partners carefully, and that's what we have a responsibility to do as a DMC. We constantly go and evaluate the sustainability policies of our partners. We stay up to date. We pick hotels that have decent sustainability policies in place. By now, hopefully most of them have, but that concerns, without going too much into detail, but hotels have policies that where they reduce their chemicals in their cleaning and washing process, you know, reduce water usage, you reuse your towels, etc. That's the most basic ones, but it goes quite far also in terms of sourcing of their products and food. Venues, there's more and more venues that are either being renovated or new venues that are passive houses, so green venues, which basically produce their own energy. They produce the energy needed to function. So that is amazing. That's a great development that we've seen lately. There is, for example, a new library in Oslo that we're using as a venue now, that is a passive energy building, a prime example of architecture and sustainability. And also in their food policy, they use a concept where they basically use almost perished foods, like close to expiry food in their concepts for their conferences. So there's lots of exciting
lot
stuff.
Of storytelling in this, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of stuff happening everywhere, and we need to be up to date, and we need to find those partners who are making those efforts. And then also in terms of materials, I briefly pointed that out already, but branding, stop the plastic signs and all of those unnecessary things. Anything that is used during your project, whether it be a conference or an incentive, if you need to have a physical version of something, make it eco-friendly. Don't use plastic, etc. So
we also can, for example, we perhaps can also not use the date, for example, so the item can be reused for the next year if you just
exactly.
To take it to the next,
but we will do everything from our most popular giveaway is the reusable water bottle, because you know, in Norway, the tap water is actually better quality than bottled water to begin with. So it's a great branding opportunity to give everybody their own very nice looking bottle that they will use throughout the event. In terms of signs, we would, and pamphlets and papers and schedules and itineraries, we always push for zero printouts. So we try to encourage the use of apps with your schedule, with everything you need to know. If it's absolutely required, signs in your conference rooms or on the way to whichever event can be entirely electronic. Why would you need to have big paper signs or cardboard signs or plastic signs? Cardboard would be acceptable.
But is it a difficult discussion to have with the client? Because there are clients who might want to have their stationery. They want their brand. And how do you, what do you say?
Well, basically, we cannot force a client to do anything. If they are coming here for a conference, they will have a lot of own supplies with them. But many of them, you can see that it was quite shameful before, the sizes of shipments that would arrive from abroad in terms of branding and materials that are unnecessarily shipped from other countries to the destination, and that can very easily be locally sourced. It's amazing. So luckily there's been a positive change there, but people will still bring their stuff, of course, and they will still request printers, and they will still have their printouts, and I cannot be the one to go and tell my the client, like, oh, sorry, you can't give that to your delegate. It's impossible. I can only encourage them to make choices that reduce their event footprint. So, and anything that can be done locally, I will push for more sustainable solutions and advise them on it. There's still also a lot of discussion around budgets. If the sustainable option is more expensive, it will be a no from the beginning. So, you have to really market it well and explain the value and educate every step with whichever client you work with. Point out the importance of being sustainable.
Okay, I want to share the comment from Rebecca from the Monaco Convention Bureau. Last year we hosted a fam trip during the Grand Prix race, so it was an eye-opener for many people who only associated Monaco with the Formula One Grand Prix.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's a great way to showcase a destination and what sustainable initiatives there are.
Different angles, definitely important.
Yeah, it's absolutely, and I've been to Monaco several times, and I know the green initiatives that are implemented. And last year, Monaco also had the Businesses Green campaign promoting sustainability in the destination, and with all the venues and all the DMCs also who came on board and talked exactly about that, how they implement sustainability and what type of incentives, sustainable incentives can be done. For example, with e-bikes, I remember there was one, and getting to know the local companies and how energy is produced. So yeah, lots of creative,
exciting stuff. Yeah, but also again, I mean, I would not have heard of the sustainabilities of policies of Monaco. So it's a big part of marketing and education all the time. just as nobody has heard of the things you can do in Norway. I mean, every day we educate, every day we inspire, and that's what we all should be doing.
Yeah, and exactly. I think that sustainability is different at every destination. So actually for the convention bureaus and the DMCs, it's a huge opportunity to promote how sustainability is done in their destination, because if the same client have been to a different destination before and now they're at a new destination, they can't expect the same. So, and actually they have more opportunities. So,
and also lead by example, like the example from Glasgow. I mean, also for us, we cannot be a DMC pushing for sustainable events if we're not sustainable in our daily operations.
Exactly.
You know, we are a paperless company. All our systems are cloud-based. We make those conscious choices as well. And you cannot be non-sustainable and then promote sustainability. So you need to be a role model, and you need to be authentic, and be a part of the process.
And then incorporate it into your marketing strategy. And so where do you get your inspiration from to create sustainable experiences?
Everywhere, just as with everything else. There's actually a lot of exciting companies and organizations that are now just working with sustainability and with encouraging companies to be more sustainable and help them implement changes in their daily operations to achieve that. A great example is Meet Green. I'm sure you've heard of them. They are a big company. They also work with IMEX and major brands in the event industry to promote sustainability. They have actually a very cool app that is called the Event Footprint, where you can go in and you can actually, based on your choices, see how sustainable you are or what you have contributed with. So those are things that are very inspiring, but also the policies of partners, of larger corporations, case studies of similar events around the world. Inspiration comes from everywhere, but also from your own ideas and from your own common sense, basically, in the choices that you make every day.
I want to add what Tina is saying. I also think that basics have to be taught too. It's not just the environment, it's also the economy and society, and that's what lots of people don't really know, unfortunately.
True.
Yeah, so maybe there is we can just dedicate a whole chat for this topic, and what then talking about all the aspects of sustainability, which are
it's about everything. I mean, I can go on and on and on about this. One of my pet peeves is in terms of food, the amount of food that is wasted. And if you are an agency or client and you want to you have an event in Norway in a year, you do not want to request set menus 6 months in advance. You do not want to offer 2 main courses to be chosen on site. Because why? Because then they will have to buy the double amount of food. You will either pay for it or it would be wasted. Or of course, you know, in these cases, we would work with organizations that collect the food and redistribute it. But it's all about educating people, and it also depends largely still on where people come from. Like there's a lot of our clients, a lot of our source markets that have a culture of displaying wealth, for example, in terms of everything needs to be there in abundance. You need to have food for 300 instead of the actual 100 people that are there. So all of these things are frustrating, and we try to educate in terms of explaining that is not necessary for the quality of the service. If your guest comes and goes to a great restaurant, I mean, we already don't pick restaurants that work with mass set menus because of that reason. But if you come and you allow the chef to choose the freshest seasonal products, produce and ingredients for your meal, and you don't have the menu beforehand, does that mean that you will have a lesser quality meal? No, not at all. It will be higher quality. You know, so there's lots of those small things that we can share and increase knowledge about. But it also largely, well, it's education from our side, but we cannot force anybody. You know, we still get often from several clients the reply, no, but this is what we want. You know, so no, we need to have 3 extra courses, or we. No, because otherwise they will feel they are poor. You know, whatever. There's still a lot of cultural differences at play as well.
Yeah, I remember I was at a conference. It was a blogger conference, so very kind of festival style, very simple audience, and it was there was one choice for lunch, and it was vegan actually, that it fits everyone, and that was so delicious. Also, I'm sure the non-vegan would be surprised. Oh wow, actually vegan food can be also delicious. So this was also sustainable, and I loved it. But I know the organizers, and they are the ones who are ready to take risks. I know that not everyone would be ready to go for risk. And if someone complains, you say, yeah, that's what it is, then go and eat out. But that's what kind of the organizer would say. But I know for many clients, for many political reasons, it's difficult.
It is.
Something like this.
We had this as an example here in Norway, where suddenly large state-owned companies decided that for their Christmas parties they will offer only vegan food. And you know, Norwegians are very used to their traditional Christmas meals, which involve lamb and, you know, lots of traditional dishes that have meat and that are not vegan. So it was like it was almost like a rebellion inside those companies. So it doesn't work every single time, but also it doesn't have to be a fully sustainable program if you are not comfortable with that. I mean, you can make those small choices. You can have a conference over 4 days and make 1 day vegan. That's already a very big difference in terms of not doing anything.
And also another example from a conference, the Falling Walls. I listened to their presentation, and they had it takes in Berlin, this conference, and just before the lunch they had both options, the meat and the vegan, and they just showed how much water they used for the meat meal and how much water was used for the vegan. And based on seeing this visual, most of the people opted for the vegan option. So again, it's a shocking way of
that's amazing. That's a very clever approach.
Showcasing it, bringing awareness. But if you are brave, if you have the courage, you have to do steps like this. And there is definitely opportunity for educating the market. So a comment from Kim is, I will always bring my reusable coffee cup when on site. So when someone from the team goes for a coffee run, I will give it to them. Small things, but leading by example in the background. Absolutely. I will also, when I go on a fam trip or travel to an event, I will also take my coffee cup now. And if I get a coffee at the station, I will definitely use my cup. Yeah. Okay, so now we will go to the next question. How do you educate yourself? So it's a bit different from how where you inspire yourself, but like education is more like for certification or like concrete certification.
Yeah, there's lots of sustainability courses that you can take, but also a part of the inspiration is self-learning for a big part. So you go and look at other companies, and you go and look at sustainable practices, at new policies, at new regulations, and you basically educate yourself on those topics. Accreditation is still a sensitive topic, and also in any form, in terms of accreditation for meeting planners or event planners, or accreditation for this and for that. Many companies are moving away from that because, you know, it's a costly affair to get all of those little logos to put in your signature.
And the question is, do clients really look at this and take decision based on the accreditation?
You need to show your client that you are a sustainable provider by your actions, not by a sign of accreditation or an ISO number. I mean, of course, a lot of people are interested in that or will check your policies, but especially if you're a smaller company, you cannot be accredited for everything. You can go and have all types of policies in place, but it doesn't need that specific logo. And also, I'm not necessarily a big fan of big organizations controlling that market and letting you pay huge amounts of money to be able to display that brand. So I don't think that is a necessity. I'm not going against it. Obviously, it's great because if you have the accreditation, you have done the learning, but it doesn't mean that you cannot do the learning in other ways as well. So definitely educate yourself online, case studies, go and follow those important green organizations like Meet Green, use those apps, test yourself constantly. So have an in-house policy where you constantly reevaluate what you are doing and how you can improve what you are doing to be more sustainable.
I want to go back shortly to Kim saying, in tasting, clients are always surprised by how good the veggie and vegan dishes are, but they are still too afraid to make it a main dish as their audience of mainly older white men wouldn't approve. Unfortunately, but I can talk from my experience. My husband is vegan and we cook mostly vegan at home, and it's so creative and it's so delicious and it's so healthy actually, eating vegan. So I'm a big supporter of vegan meals, and I know the challenges where my husband has a client meeting or he's on a business trip. He has difficulty actually to have good food. There are very few exceptions where he told me there was such an amazing vegan food, but the majority is unfortunate. It's still not the mainstream yet. So
not yet, no.
And I also, maybe here I can also share that Kim, she was at an event with Etihad, which we hosted a couple of years ago in London, and this event was completely vegan menu. I don't know if Maris is still watching, but this was with Maris, and we did the coverage of this event. There was a vegan cook. I think she did show cooking in front of the audience, and then when the people ate, they could speak with the chef, and then she also had her books and signed them. So it was a very nice experience. And comment from Tina, we once had a client who didn't want printed menus, so we decided to write menus on slates for 130 people, and we had to rewrite them every day for the next day's menu. Big learning, so time consuming.
But nice that you would actually do that. Amazing, actually. Yeah. That's a big investment of your time, definitely.
Another comment from Tina, maybe you can share that link to Event Manager blog talking about sustainable event management. That's fantastic and taught us a lot too. So definitely check out this link and find this article.
It was last year, I think.
She remembers this event, which was 2 years ago or 3 years ago in London. So yeah, we remember things like that because it's an experience, it's different, it's unique, and it's being different from competitions, from the competition, and being an innovator.
But definitely it exceeds your expectations, and that's for a big part because you don't have the right expectations yet. So people still associate green events with recycled toilet paper, you know, like everything that looks a little more brownish than what you are used to, and it's not an attractive idea. So that's what we need to change as well in the mindset.
Kim is also suggesting to reduce 2 menus per table, and Marisa is asking, how about menu projection on tables?
We've done that before on walls,
Wow,
so we use that as
very
well.
nice.
And we have a lot of restaurants actually who use one big writing board, and they go with it through the restaurant and
Yeah.
show it at every different table, and then they discuss the menu. And I don't think that you should be using menus anymore or have so many printouts during events every single day, cards in the rooms, everything, etc.,
Yes,
etc. I mean,
because it's
there is
every day, twice a day. It's a lot.
yeah, it's definitely a lot, and that's not necessary at all. There are more creative ways to do that.
But I like the projection on the wall, or the table, because it's, especially if you're a company which wants to be associated with digital and innovation, that's definitely a nice idea to walk the talk. Yeah. How does that sound?
Yeah.
So, and last question. So if you have any questions from the audience, so please let us know now, because we will be wrapping up soon. One more question. Now going to be very practical. Can you share examples of sustainable experiences that you've created for your clients? And now maybe we can talk about the zero emissions and how you made it.
Well, a lot of what I've already said basically are things that we do every single time. We implement small aspects into every single program. So it should be elements throughout, even if your client is not actively asking for it. That's also part of the education, right? So, for example, instead of doing a discovery by bus, if it's not an electric bus, you can use other types of vehicles. We use, let's say, small Twizzys, like electrical, small little cars that are cute and adorable, and you can have a lot of fun with them, or electric scooters to have a discovery of your surroundings. But I like to personally create contrasts. So take the aspect of sustainability with a part of your local culture. For us, that can be, for example, a Viking experience. So you go back into the Viking days and Viking times, but to travel around and visit the different Viking locations, you are using these quizzes, or you are, having a session in VR at one of the places, and you make the link and discuss sustainability actually during the event, based on the choices that you made that day, but also based on what the lifestyle was like in the Viking days. Were they more sustainable than us? The answer is yes. So, I mean, it's quite an interesting topic. And in that way, it engages people more, and you start to think about it more.
And to remember it more as well.
Yeah, definitely. Like the experiences you mentioned, that's awesome. They stay in your mind because it's something new, it's something fresh. Like nobody would associate Vikings with sustainability, right? So it's quite nice to have that approach. We always encourage walking. There are still way too many people that need transfers for a 10-minute walk. Like, please stop doing that. Like, you are healthy people. You can walk a little bit, and it helps you experience where you are. I'm especially thinking about conferences and meetings now, in terms of incentives. You will have activities that do that. But if you have a conference at a venue and the city center is 10 minutes away, please just walk there. Like, why would you need shuttle services for hours and hours and hours on end to bring your delegates 1 kilometer further? These are things that we try to approach. And in terms of incentives and engagements and activities, we also do a lot of walking, but we are not doing your regular old school city walks behind a guide with a flag. Please no. But we like to do it, like, for example, with a challenge. A lot of iPad challenges now. We actually, it's funny, the TikTok challenge, I started including it right into incentive programs. For the first time, I had some feedback yesterday of one of our clients in Belgium, and she was like, "What is that?" So I had to explain to her, and why is it so cheap? Well, I told her, well, we first of all, it's a great positive, isn't it? I mean,
absolutely, yeah.
basically we are being more sustainable. We are encouraging you to discover the city in a different way. Everybody's using their own mobile devices. They have access to Wi-Fi everywhere they go during the challenge, and it doesn't cost us a lot to create that challenge for you. Then we have add-ons, of course. Afterwards, we do prize ceremony. You know, we have lots of fun stuff that is connected to it. We have tastings along the way and all of that. But of course, to create that actual challenge doesn't cost much. So it was surprising to them. Of course, they didn't really know what we meant when we said TikTok challenge, even though it was quite an extensive description. So it's just finding new ways of engaging people and showing your destination or doing your activities. And in the same time being more sustainable. And yeah, for one of our, I mentioned boats. One of our major clients from Switzerland actually had, they were supposed to come now in September, hopefully next year as well. They had their entire topic was about generational change and transformation. So we built quite a lot of elements into their program, and also designed a sustainability party for them on a fully electric boat with like local food, with, you know, just every aspect had a focus on being green and the way forward into a sustainable future. So there are lots and lots of things you can do. We also can involve delegates in conferences, as I said, for recycling, but also if you have the time and the option to do it, involve them in the creative meeting design process beforehand. Like use recycled furniture or create them, use local craftsmen, you know, build something together that brings you together and enhances your brand, your corporate identity. Everybody feels more strongly about the company if they have to design some type of branding in an eco-friendly way. It's a great activity. So yes, definitely. And also in terms of Green Festival, I mean, that's a major project. So there is lots of discussions going on there about how to reduce pollution in every way possible. Because if you have huge stages and lots of technology and you know, a lot of logistics come into play, then it's quite a challenge to do that in the middle of nature. You know, you don't want to go and work with aggregate and etc. So you need to really think it out very carefully, step by step.
So we have comments from Tina. Vikings would also connect Norway with Scotland, and Laura added Italy as well. So maybe one day, ladies, you'll have an opportunity to work on a cross-country incentive.
A multi-destination incentive, but with the swimming between the countries, because, you know, we don't want to be flying too much.
So definitely a lot of storytelling there. So we are wrapping up. It's definitely a very interesting topic, an important topic with great interest. Because 2 weeks ago we also hosted a Twitter chat about sustainability with Katrin Luti from the Green Event Planner, and again this topic generated the discussion on Twitter for several days. And seeing the big interest now and your wonderful comments, we definitely see the opportunity to continue speaking about it, and maybe next time also talk about sustainability in the wider context and not just about the nature and the plastic and the waste, but also how it goes into the society. So we'll give us some thoughts. If you have any input, any questions that we can cover, let us know, because we definitely want to talk about this specific topic. And now our next topic tomorrow is marketing, and specifically how the DMC contributes to destination marketing, because
a very important topic.
That's definitely changing, especially with the rise of social media, all the online tools available, and the blogs, the vlogs, and how to work in a collaboration with the Convention Bureau. So all this we'll be talking tomorrow, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you tomorrow again and for such a fun and interactive discussion. Thank you very
so
much
everybody.
everyone for joining, and we see you tomorrow.
Thank you, Irina.
Thank
Bye.
you, Heidi. Bye.